I warmly welcome you all to the 25th session of WSO2 API Manager Community Call. In today's call, we will be discussing on exposing services as managed APIs. This is an open forum, so all questions are welcome. You can ask questions either via the chat during the presentation or unmute at the end and have a discussion with the WSO2 API Manager team and the rest of the community. The recording of this session will be uploaded to our WSO2 YouTube channel. So let's get started. My name is Sugunakumar Arnan. I am a Senior Software Engineer at WSO2 API Manager Product Team. Let's look at today's agenda. Today, we will be covering integration first development, and we will explain how you can register your services with WSO2 API Manager Service Catalog. And we will be providing a demonstration with WSO2 Micro Integrator and WSO2 Streaming Integrator on how you can write and export your service definition to the WSO2 API Manager layer. Let's look at an overview about integration first development. Before stepping into integration first development, let's look at what is an integration. Integration is the function of connecting disparate systems to exchange data and build a coherent system that produces value to the users. So let's look at how these disparate systems came into existence. In today's digital business world, your organization would be having several departments in your organization, like accounting department, sales department, marketing department, and these departments would be using different kind of software and different kind of systems. And these individual systems would be working on different protocols or different data formats, because not all of them were created at the same time, right? So when your business is growing, you will be employing more and more new systems, and these systems would have different protocols that are relevant to the time periods technology. So when we want to provide data to our stakeholders, like our customers, our partners, our board of directors, this data or the information should have a value. So when we want to give a value to the information should be in the same format, or they should have like a coherent behavior so that they don't look like that they were taken from different systems. To do that, you need an integration platform or an integration logic. If you look at an API, the API is an interface that you can use to deliver your business capabilities and business data as valuable information to your customers. The basic idea behind an API is basically it is a contract that you can use to develop the integration logic and the API independently, so that the integration developer and the API creator doesn't have to meet or communicate. The most common mechanism that we use today to write this API is the REST API. Okay, so this REST API is defined using a specification, right? So to do that, we nowadays use Swagger or OpenAPI specifications. And also like a REST API, there are other APIs that are gaining some traction these days, like GraphQL and Async APIs. For those, we have different kind of specifications that are accepted by the industry. So once you have written this definition using the industry accepted specification, the client and the server doesn't, the API developer and the integration developer doesn't have to meet or communicate to each other. They can just look at the contract and develop on their own. Basically, this contract will be explaining how you can access this interface or what you can get out of this interface. Once this interface is defined, then the users can work on their own. So this has led to the concept of API-led integration. So what is API-led integration? API-led integration is simply an integration strategy that enables businesses to connect different data, different applications, and other services via APIs. It helps to define integration scenarios while increasing the ability to reuse the multiple services and multiple times by different stakeholders. API-led integration is a concept that is gaining popularity these days because of the complexity in developing the integration use cases. when we talk about API-led integration, there are two development approaches. One is the API first development, and the other is integration first development. In the API first development, you would be creating the API first, and then you would be developing the integration logic. In the integration first development, you first would be developing the integration logic, and then you will be developing the API. So in today's call, we will be mainly talking about the integration first development approach using WSO2 API Manager 4.0. So let's look at how you can register services with API Manager. Before explaining how you can register services in API Manager, I would like to introduce the service catalog feature that is introduced in API Manager 4.0. Under API Manager 4.0 release, along with the API Manager, we also released two integration runtimes, Micro Integrator and Streaming Integrator. When we are following the integration first development strategy, we will be creating integration logic either in Micro Integrator or Streaming Integrator. If it is an ESP style integration, we can use Micro Integrator. If it is a streaming use case, then we can use Streaming Integrator. Service catalog is like the bridge between these integration runtimes and the API Manager product, so that the developers can have a smooth integration between the development of services and the API proxies. It also helps the services to be discovered by the API Manager layer. So whenever you create the services and you export the definitions to the API layer, from the API Manager, we can see these definitions and we can create APIs out of it. For example, look at this diagram. So there's an integration developer on the left side. There's an API creator on the right side. The integration developer is using WSO2 Integration Studio and Micro Integrator to develop his integration service. Once he has created the service, he can export that service into the WSO2 Micro Integrator, and in turn, Micro Integrator will export that service into the service catalog of API Publisher. Basically, when it exports the service, it will be sending a metadata file and a definition file. The definition file would be written some industry standard specification. So if it's a REST API, it would be Open API specification. And the metadata file will be describing the service, like the name, the version, values, and the service URL that the service is running. So with this service catalog feature introduced in API Manager 4.0, there are a set of REST APIs that got introduced. So if you are an integration developer, these are the REST APIs that you would need to export the services to the API Manager layer. So you don't have to use Micro Integrator or Streaming Integrator. Regardless of the integration platform that you use, you can use this REST API and you can publish your service definition to the API Manager layer. But if you are using WSO2 Micro Integrator or WSO2 Streaming Integrator, then you don't have to worry about it. All of these are inbuilt into the product. So this is one of the main REST API that are used by an integration developer to export their services into the API Manager layer. So the primary thing that you need to do is that you need to send the definition and the metadata YAML files. So to do that, you have to zip them into a zip file, and then you can send them in a REST call. So if you have multiple services, you don't have to send multiple calls. You can send one zip file with the required folder structure, and there you go. You don't have to create multiple REST calls to create multiple services. So here in this documentation, you can see that the folder structure is explained here. So if you have two services called service 1 and service 2, you don't have to create two zip files. You can create one zip file with the relevant folder structure, and the services will be created in the API Manager layer. Also, there is a verifier parameter. This is an optional parameter which is used to validate the request. So this is basically MD5 file, MD5 sum of the metadata file and the definition file, and you have to concatenate it to get a combined MD5 sum key. And you will be sending this key in the request. So this will help to for the service catalog to validate the request, and it can choose whether the service definition and the metadata file has to be updated or not. If you have not changed the definition file and you are keep on sending the same request again and again, for example, if you are running several concurrent service nodes with the same service, and you are not updating any of the file, then each of the node will be sending the same request again and again. In that case, we don't have to, the API manager will not override the definition file again and again. It will just simply ignore the request. It will only consider the first request where the verifier is different from the value that it already has. So if you want more information, you can go to the API manager service catalog REST API documentation, and you can look at all these REST APIs and get an understanding on how you can implement these REST APIs in your integration platform. But if you are using micro integrator or streaming integrator, you don't have to worry about it. You just have to configure them to find the API manager instance, and you are good to go. Let's look at a small demonstration. So I already have an API manager up and running. So I am the publisher portal. If you go to the in the left hand side, you can see that the services tab is there. If you go to the services tab, you can view the home page of the service catalog. Here we don't have any services yet, but you can see that you can add a sample integration service, which you can check, okay, how it looks like. So now I have added a sample PizzaShack service here, and if you click on it, it will have the basic. So this view will provide the basic metadata about the service. So what is the service URL, and what is the schema type, and all that. If you want to view the definition, you can do that as well. So in this definition is written using the OpenAPI specification, and it has the descriptions about all the REST resources and how the request should look like and how the response should look like likewise. So if you are fine with it, then you just have to go and create an API like you normally do so. And you can see that the details are already populated here, and you can create the API. So it's simple as that. So let's go and create a service in Integration Studio, and let's see how we can push that service into the service catalog like the PizzaShack API. So I have the Integration Studio up and running. Now I'm going to create a new integration project. Inside the integration project, I'm going to create a REST API. I have created the REST API. So you can see that the REST API has been created, and it has the basic skeleton. Along with that, if you go to the metadata folder, you can see two REST APIs that begins with the REST API name that I just created. It has a metadata file and a Swagger file. This metadata YAML file will have the basic details about this service, like the name, key, display name, description, likewise. So we can go and update this descriptions, city data, and we can update this service URL. So this service URL will be the one which tells you where the service is going to run. Since I'm going to run it on a micro integrated instance that is in my local machine, I'm going to hardcode these values, or else you can use environmental variables and you can change this dynamically as well. So I have edited these values. Now let's go, if you go to the Swagger file, now a basic skeleton has been generated here, and it has the default path that was created. We have a get resource by default, and it all has the default values. let's go to the REST API and we can write a simple integration logic. So I am just going to return a list of city names when we call this service. So here I will be returning London and New York. Okay. So okay, I am using a payload factory mediator to create the response, and now we need to use the response mediator to respond to the client. Okay, now we have created this service. Now I am not okay. Let's go to the definition file, and I am going to just edit this description. Description list of cities. Now we have created this API, service in the integration studio. Now we can go to the micro integrator and configure it so that it can push it to the API manager. I'm going to go to the deployment domain of the micro integrator, and there you can see, let's trust this. And there you can see that there are service catalog configs commented out here. You can uncomment them, and the values given here is same for me. So I am running my API manager instance in my localhost 9443 port, and the username password is the default one. So I have configured the deployment toml, and now from the integration studio, I'm going to export my service into the micro integrator. So I have the micro integrator instance. So I have successfully exported the car application to the micro integrator instance. Let's go and start up the micro integrator instance. So you can see that when I start the micro integrator instance, it has a log saying that it has successfully uploaded the service catalog. So it has pushed the service to the API manager layer. So if I go to the service catalog in the API publisher portal, I can see the city REST API here. So if I go and check it now, okay, now the description is updated here as city data, and the name is given, and the service URL is also given here. And if I look at the definition file, it's the same definition file that I created in the integration studio. From here, I can create the API from one single button click. You can change the context if you want. And after that, you will be just creating the API as you would create other APIs in the API manager. You have to deploy it, publish it, and you can go to the developer portal and try it out. Yeah, so I have got the response from the micro integrator as London and New York. So let's go and change this API definition a little bit. So now I have only one resource here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly copy this resource and create another. I'm going to say this. So once I create another resource, you don't have to go and update the Swagger file yourself. The Swagger file will be updated itself. You can see now, earlier we only had the one get resource. Now we have two get resource with two URI templates. Now I can go and update this description as well. And now I have updated the definition. Now what I have to do is, now I am going to stop the micro integrator and export the service again. It says successfully updated the service catalog. Now what I am going to do is, now I am going to go to the API Manager Publisher portal and go to the created API that I already have there. And if I go to the API definition view of it, now it says, now I have an outdated definition here because this one only has one get resource, but I have already created two. Now it says outdated definition. So if an API creator, if he wants, what he can do is he can update the current API. So he can re-import. So once he re-imports, now there will be two resources created here. So that's the beauty of this integration plus development. You can change the integration logic as you want. And then if you update the definition with the service catalog feature, you can push it to the API manager layer. And from the API manager layer, you can make changes on the API according to it. So now we looked at a example in micro integrator. Let's go and look at a demonstration in WSO2 streaming integrator, where you can create streaming use cases. So I already have that streaming integrator, so tooling up and running. In the streaming integrator tooling, so like you use Integration Studio for WSO2 micro integrator. For streaming integrator, we use WSO2 streaming integrator tooling. Here I have created a sample streaming use case here, where it will receive an HTTP event and it will convert it into a WebSocket event, and it will expose in a WebSocket port. So to make this as a service that can export the definition to the API Manager service catalog, we have to go to the async API view. So here I'm going to give the name. So I'm going to generate the async API spec. Now the async API spec has been generated. As I explained earlier, for REST APIs, we are using Open API specification. For streaming API use cases, we are using async API definition. So now we have created the async API definition for this service. And if I go back to the code view, okay, I have to add this first. And if I go back to the code view, now you can see now the async API has been added here. So like we had the Open API specification in the Integration Studio, this is the async API specification for this particular streaming API. Now, as we did for micro integrator, we can also go and configure the streaming integrator to push the service to the API manager layer. So since streaming integrator and WSO2 API manager share the 9443 port, I'm going to have a offset here. And I'm going to update the service catalog configs here. So I'm going to enable it. and the rest of it is the same. So now the streaming integrator is now configured, and from the tooling, I'm going to deploy it into the server. So I already have the server file here, the server added here, and then I'm going to deploy it. Okay, before that I have to start the server. Okay. Yes. So we have another port clashing with my emission. Change this. Okay, the server has started successfully now. Now I'm going to export it again. Now it has been deployed successfully. Once you have deployed it, you can see that it has got exported to the service catalog that you can view from the API Manager Publisher portal. If you go to the services tab, there you can see that the train location API has been exported to the service catalog. The definition is there. Like you did for async API, like you did for the micro integrator REST API, you can do the same here. You just have to create the API from one single click. Can say train location. And that's it. So this is basically the demonstration of how you can utilize this service catalog platform with WSO2 Micro Integrator and WSO2 Streaming Integrator to create the services, and you can export the definitions to the API Manager layer. So that brings the conclusion to our today's session. So if you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, there's a question from Bruno. It is possible to grant the role internal subscriber by default to all users from an Active Directory user store. So all Active Directory users can log in the dev portal UI by default without an admin user going to Carbon and grant the permissions per user. Yeah, any ideas on this one? Can any of the team members answer? Anyone? Okay, our team members will get back to you on that one. So in the meantime, do we have any other questions? So there's a question from Fajar Ali. Okay, did the service catalog that published share between all publishers? So basically, service catalog is part of the API publisher. So it's not a separate instance. So when you are starting the API manager, the service catalog also will start, and it's combined with the API publisher. So there's no need to like share it between something. I don't know whether I answered your question.
Sorry.
Hello.
Yes.
Are you
I
there?
mean
Yeah.
I mean, is the share between all publisher account? I mean,
Okay.
did any publisher account can see other service catalog that owned by other publisher?
No, they cannot. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. So
Okay.
because whenever you publish the service, you are going to give a credential. So whichever credential that you are giving, the account that belongs to that credential can only see those APIs, not others.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, there's another question from Fajar Ali. How about deployment strategy for micro integrator and streaming integrator instance servers on multi-tenancy Kubernetes implementation? So let's say the multi-tenancy Kubernetes implementation. Let's say now you have separate instances for different tenants, and now you would be, I assume that you will be having different services in different tenants, and you can use the same API manager. You don't have to have different API manager instances or different service catalogs. You can have one single API manager instance, and with this multi-tenancy option in my so you will be having multiple different instances. So you can have different instances configured in a different way, or if you want to publish to different publishers, then you will be using the each different publish credential. But if not, you can use the same publisher credential as well, and still the service would be exported to the API manager layer. But if you are using the same service, still it would go get exported. But if it's the same definition file and the metadata files are same, as I explained earlier, the verifier value will not change. So in that case, we will not override the definition file in the API manager again and again. We will just simply deny all other requests rather than processing it. So I hope I answered your question. Okay. So since the time is running, please ask any, if you have any more questions, you can ask in our Slack channel. Our entire APM manager team is ready to answer it. And sorry, Bruno, we couldn't get you an answer during this call. We will get back to you with an answer during the Slack. Okay, Jessica has replied. I hope the answer is satisfactory to you. If you have any more questions, you can still ask in our Slack channel, official Slack channel. And so I have shared some useful links for this video, for this call, and you can always visit these links and gain more information on this subject. If you are an integration developer, you definitely need to visit our REST API guide so that you can get an understanding about how this REST API, service catalog REST APIs work, and how you can implement them yourselves. But if you are not, and if you are using micro integrator or streaming integrator, the burden is much less. So thanks everyone for joining. So this session is recorded, and we will be hosting this video in our WSO2 YouTube channel. And we will be having this community call every month. If you have any suggestions for our next agenda, or if you have any suggestions that you would like to provide us, you can use our Slack channel, or you can contact us. And that's it. We strongly encourage you all to join again for our next community call. So thanks again for joining. Have a nice day.